Okay, well, let's kick off our room this morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss the hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have some different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So our room this morning is bookkeeping, to offer or not to offer. So there's a couple of new people in the Clubhouse stratosphere this morning. So good morning to you and welcome. I'll introduce myself. My name is Linda Steffens. I am an accountant and author and an introvert, and I've been hanging around public practice now for just over 30 years. I've done a lot in that time with public practice, but at the moment what I do is I help accounting firms to transition their ad hoc advisory into consistent advisory services. So that's where I spend most of my time. And of course, my amazing co-host is with me this morning again, Kyelie Baxter. Good morning.
Good morning, Linda. I hope you've had a good week. I'll do a quick intro. So I'm Kyelie Baxter. I have a public practice accounting firm here on the gorgeous Gold Coast. We, for the purpose of this conversation, do have in-house bookkeeping that we offer. So we have a team of bookkeepers. So that'll add some interest to the conversation, particularly how I fell into having bookkeeping in-house.
There you go.
Yeah.
Excellent. And for those of you who might be looking at us on LinkedIn or on any of the live stream platforms, we do have a special guest this morning as well. We'd like to welcome Trent Todd from TechWeave. Good morning, Trent. If you want to tell us just a little bit about you.
Hi, Linda. Good morning. Yes, so I've had a myriad of roles in the accounting world, sort of commercial and practice. For the last couple of years, I've built a bookkeeping, just a solely bookkeeping focused business, which effectively runs itself with good systems, good processes, and good people. And now I've sort of removed myself from that business. It sort of runs itself on the side. I've got a business partner that owns that. And now in TechWeave, I offer or help accountants redesign their bookkeeping process or build their bookkeeping process so they can do it more profitably, better outcomes for clients, and etc. So yeah, that's me.
Perfect. Well, you're going to be extremely helpful this morning. Thank you, Trent. And thank you for coming along and spending a little bit of time with us this morning as well. We appreciate that. It is early here in Queensland. And so thank you for getting up early if this is early for you. So just a reminder that we are a CPA discussion group. So you can get your CPD and CPE points for listening in. If you want to catch any of the other topics, there's certainly replays in Clubhouse and also over on my YouTube channel if you want to check out any of the other topics. A reminder just as we kick off the conversation that of course our intention is always to be positive, supportive and collaborative as we come together in support of our amazing industry no matter where we are in the world. Now, we would love, of course, for you to all join in our discussion. So if you would like to do that, all you need to do is raise your hand if you want to talk to us live on the Clubhouse platform. You can send your comments through LinkedIn or any of those other live stream channels. And also, if you're not wanting to say anything live, then we've got the chat function in Clubhouse as well. So we'd love to know where you're tuning in from. So if you wanted to just say good morning, tell us where you're tuning in from. That's always nice for us to know that somebody is out there listening to us. So that's always very helpful, isn't it, Kyelie?
I just talk to myself.
Yeah. Oh, look, we don't mind getting on here and just having a chat, do we? So, yeah, look, please have a chat with us. We would love you to do that. So, bookkeeping, to offer or not to offer. You might have found yourself considering some revenue generating potential of offering bookkeeping services in your accounting firm from one time to another. Perhaps you offer bookkeeping already, and it's been a mixed success maybe, or a great success, or you've learned some great lessons along the way. Is it possible to create a profitable bookkeeping division? And is it possible for accountants and bookkeepers to work harmoniously and live happily ever after together in one firm? So, Kyelie and I and Trent are going to have a look at that today. So I think Kyelie has already told us that she does offer bookkeeping within her practice. And interesting enough, Kyelie, I think where we always love to start is why? Why do we do these things? Like, you know, what's the strategy behind it? What was the strategy behind it for you when I think you said you fell into bookkeeping?
Yeah, look, I'll be really honest. There was no strategy. My strategy has obviously been, I don't want to offer bookkeeping. We're accountants. Let's just stick to what we do best. Aces in their places sort of thing. And we had very good relationships with, I think, 2 key bookkeepers. One of the bookkeepers did about 60 of our clients' work.
Wow.
So it was a lot. And
yes.
then he took a job with one of our mutual clients and came to me and said, what am I going to, like, I'm going to sell this practice. What's going to happen?
Yes.
He said, if you don't buy this, then
what's going to happen? Yeah.
have to split it up.
Yeah. Wow.
Take these 60 clients. So as I like to jokingly say to him, he forced my hand and I had no choice.
Yes.
And I had to continue to offer these services. So that's how bookkeeping came into 𝐼𝐸. But you know what, Linda, I have never looked back. They were a very paper-based firm. They did excellent quality work, which was fantastic, but that didn't really suit me and our business structure here at 𝐼𝐸, because we're completely paperless, we're tech savvy, we're very strong on systems and processes. So to have sort of all of those clients doing their own different thing in their own different way really didn't work for us. So once I had made the decision that we would be offering bookkeeping in-house, it was really about designing a model that made sense for us, made sense for our clients, and worked. Because I think the problem is there's a bit of a disconnect where people don't think that bookkeeping is profitable, but you know, I would argue it's actually super profitable and much easier to make money on than accounting because there's less variables.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Perfect.
That's my story. No strategy.
No strategy. What?
The strategy came, I think, when we started. You know,
yeah. And then you realised it was really something and that it was actually going to work for you.
Well, I knew that it just had to work. For
yeah,
us,
you had to make it work.
Because they were so, you know, it was about systems and processes. And I think Trent alluded to that as well. And it'll be great to hear his take on it also.
Yeah.
But really, you know, we needed to streamline things. That was the key word.
Yes.
For both us and the clients.
Yes. And I think just going on to that streamlining topic is very much also to what I hear when I talk to accountants is, you know, the struggles with getting good, reliable, timely data into the practice to enable you to do the tax and accounting has been difficult. And, you know, some of our software providers play very heavily role in that. And, you know, they tell everybody that, yeah, it's so easy, you just do it, right? But as we well know, clients have their own full-time jobs with their own businesses. The last thing they feel like doing is certainly record keeping and bookkeeping when they get home at night or on the weekends. And, you know, there's more often than not, they're not bookkeepers and they're not accountants. So, you know, they're doing their best jobs.
And that's the thing. I think when it comes down to it, we know that underlying data is key, like that whole single source of truth. But what happens when at an accounting level for, you know, tax or advisory particularly, because that's really, you know, proactive, not reactive. What happens when that underlying data or that single source of truth is not true?
Yes.
You know? So I think by bringing bookkeeping in-house and really having that level of control and review on it early on, there's so much opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about that single source of truth and the timeliness when it comes to what I call business improvement advisory. And I talk a lot about the stories that the numbers tell. The numbers are telling you an incomplete or an erroneous story. Well, you can be in a whole lot of trouble when it comes to doing anything with them. So very, very important. So Trent, interested to hear, when you're talking to accountants and or bookkeepers for that matter, what are they telling you are some of the issues around what they're finding with their bookkeeping divisions, or the reasons behind why they want to set up bookkeeping divisions?
I think I'm sort of talking to two groups, some accountants that don't actually offer bookkeeping, that are looking at us to build a bookkeeping division, which is a little bit harder of a return on investment discussion because there's build up. And then the second is the accountants that do bookkeeping almost because I suppose they have to, similar to what you said, Kyelie. But and I think their main problem with the accountants that have to do bookkeeping, I think there's two things. I think it's the impact to their workflow around BAS and final reconciliations. Number one, and it creates a massive issue for them from a planning and a capacity planning point of view. And then secondly, I think margin is one. And what I think that ends up happening there is accountants can leave the bookkeeping to later because there's competing priorities. You know, a BAS lodgement or a tax lodgement or something like that is always far more important than reconciling a bank account, which could happen the next day. So I think the big thing that we try to, those big things, and the big issue there is you've got to respect the difference between accounting, which is your general your general tax and stuff, and you respect the difference that accounting is a completely different business to bookkeeping. And when you do that, everything gets, like, when you look at a problem with that lens, it gets better. But that's the main problem I hear.
I love that, Trent. I call it accountants bookkeeping, which is entirely different. You're exactly right. We're looking often, I say we because I know I did it too, and even in my own record keeping, I look at it to get the result that I need, which is, obviously, like you said, do the BAS or do whatever I'm needing to do. I'm not looking at the technicality of what the actual bookkeeping should be done within whatever software product I'm using, So, yes, I think that's, for anyone listening into that is the first big mindset shift that you need to have, is that bookkeeping is entirely separate. It's an entirely different dynamic, a different business, different way of going about things, different systems and processes, and different workflows than your accounting. So if you can appreciate it in that way, then you're 5 steps ahead, right, Trent?
Yeah, it's a very good start.
Okay, perfect. So do you find you've got to challenge accountants on that?
Not really. I think accountants are very practical people.
Okay.
I think accountants are very good at understanding opportunity cost as well, right? And I think that opportunity cost discussion is why it gets put on the back burner, which is completely understandable. So I suppose challenging is sort of the right word, but the key for us is rather than creating an environment where there is opportunity cost, someone doing a tax return versus doing bookkeeping, just split it. And then that person only does bookkeeping. And I know that can be a big shift for people.
It's another big shift,
But if you're a tax manager who has 10 bookkeeping clients and 50 tax clients, it's only going to create conflict. So I think that's number one for us. Systems and processes, that stuff's pretty easy to do. It's the key is that value shift, or that strategy.
And that mindset shift around what it is. Yes, you're exactly right. It has to be treated separately. And I suppose, Kyelie, is that something you learnt early on around, the difference between bookkeeping and accounting when you started out with this?
I always planned that if we were going to do it, we would have a separate bookkeeping division.
Okay.
It's not something that we could just take on. And while I 100% agree that, it needs to be two separate teams, it needs to be dealt with separately, I don't think we should let accountants in general off the hook about bookkeeping.
Okay.
We have to.
Oh, you hear that, everybody? She's not letting you off the hook, sorry.
Seriously, you can't just take data as that's how it is and that must be true. You do have to have the ability to read it, understand it, and then direct the bookkeepers potentially on what the issues are and what needs to be rectified if it's a client prepared file or whatever the story is. So I think, and it's changing, the model is changing for accountants, but I think particularly, even up to 5 years ago, it was, just take it as it is. That doesn't cut it in my world anymore, because it's up to us to make sure that we're producing accurate information and also giving clients advice based on this data.
Yeah, so when I'm going into accounting firms and looking at, efficiency across the board from a business perspective, I'm quoting my number one rule, right people in the right jobs. And I know, Kyelie, you call it aces in their spaces. And so, it's really, for my mind, accountants, we go to uni, we have the degrees, we're there to apply tax law to, records and to tax adjustments and things like that, amongst other things. But at the core, that's what we do. And accountants should do accounting, bookkeepers should do bookkeeping, which is that mindset shift we just spoke about. And administration people should do administration and support. And when they start to conflict, or we're trying to do half of each job, then you get exactly what Trent was then saying there before, about those conflicts and priorities that one will take over the other. So very much right people in the right jobs. But just what you said there, Kyelie, was that when you've got a bookkeeping division, or it doesn't matter, I suppose, whether it's the bookkeeping division in-house or whether it's a bookkeeper that you're working with as a third party, it's up to us still as accountants to go, is this right? We need to understand what bookkeeping should say to us. Is that what you're talking about? Understand what it should look like.
Yeah, 100%. I think that as accountants, we shouldn't be preparing, financial statements unless the bank accounts are reconciled. So you need to at least be able to go, is that bank account reconciled? Doesn't mean you've got to do it.
Yes.
But you need to, it doesn't let accountants completely off the hook that, we don't do bookkeeping, so it is what it is.
Okay. So I'm just going to switch over to the client's perspective for a minute about bookkeeping. What do you think? I mentioned some of the challenges I think clients have. The last thing that they feel like doing when they come home after their busy days is to do their compliance. I see my partner doing it at the kitchen table often at night time, and there might be a few naughty words that pop out of his mouth from time to time when he's doing that. And so and they're not generally that's not their skill. They're not an ace in that space, so they struggle with that. Kyelie, do you hear that from your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a big advocate in everyone should just do what they do best, alongside that aces in their places situation. And, Linda, to use your partner as an example, I don't know what his hourly rate is or what his charge per client is, but if he then sat down and went, okay, well, this actually took me 2 hours to get up to date, regardless of the accuracy of that,
yes,
versus him going out and actually doing his actual skill or trade for 2 hours, you really have to break it down and go, are we spending our time in the most efficient way? So I think I'm a big advocate for using a bookkeeper. I think unless you particularly have that skill set, then it is a great opportunity to go out and, it's an opportunity costing, like Trent was saying.
Yes.
Should I spend my time doing this?
Yes.
Or should I go and actually do what I'm good at and what my skill set is?
And I think if we can, as professionals, bookkeeping or accountants, can take that pain, that immediate pain away from a client, that enables us to be able to teach and instruct them at a much higher level, you know, and actually show them what some of their numbers might be saying, you know, without them getting bogged down into that detail. So I think there is more opportunity to do some higher level work with them if we can just take away some of that day-to-day pain. So Trent, when you were building your bookkeeping business, how did that come about, I suppose? How did you end up in doing that?
So I started a business about 6 years ago after leaving a Big Four business improvement advisory role, and after a couple of years, I ended up taking a role with one of my clients as a CFO, and I did that for about 3 years. We sold the business. It's a pretty big business, international business. It's now owned by quite a large competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back, my business partner had turned our old business into a bookkeeping practice. It was, I would call it a pretty traditional bookkeeping practice where you had sort of that one-to-one relationship between client and bookkeeper, and you know, it had all of those normal issues. What happens if someone goes on leave? All of the processes and all of the to-do lists are all managed in Excel and saved on someone's computer. You know, clients weren't involved. We had huge amounts of unreconciled transactions. All of the issues that I sort of refer to, and I don't mean this really, but sort of I sort of refer that to as pretty traditional. Old,
yes, yeah, no, that's fine. We get you.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, it's sort of just how it is sometimes.
Yeah.
So what the big difference for me is one afternoon or one night, I sort of, after a client called me about something so ridiculous that I thought was ridiculous, but it's obviously value to them, and you know, you've got to always put that into perspective. But you know, I think it was a $100 bill put into the wrong GL account, something like that. But you know, it's simple errors like that. So what I did is I actually wrote up what I think we do from an offering point of view versus what I built when I built my finance team. I had you know 50 people working for me at one stage.
Yeah.
So what did I like? What did I like in my finance role? What was the things that I created? What was the environment I created as the customer of a finance team, the CFO of a finance team? And I wrote down what we're doing.
Okay.
And then, you know, there's a very clear gap, you know. When I was a CFO, I approved everything. Every dollar. I was and I mean, most people are, you know, it's their business. They want control. And I think that was the big thing for me. That was the changing point. Rather than creating an outsourced bookkeeping function, I wanted to create, obviously outsourced. It has to be outsourced because we're not employed, but we're an outsourced. But we create a feel of being next to the client.
Yeah. Okay.
And we've done that in multiple ways. So when we're not using email, we try to avoid email at all costs. We're using instant messaging tools, whatever that is. We use Slack personally. We're using
got some slackers.
So you know, we ensure that, you know, Slack channels are created, clients fall into that. We communicate less formal and more sort of off the cuff.
Yeah.
So creating that more personal vibe and feeling. You know, when I had a finance team, not one person did bill entry, payments and payroll and everything. You know, I created a team to do that. So when I gapped the difference between what I had versus what we have in the bookkeeping business, it's really easy just to basically gap analysis. Where were the gaps? Found a solution for each one of them, and then we built it.
So again, it's almost, you're talking the aces in their spaces again, you know, getting people, you're effectively thinking about it as setting up a finance department almost, you know, for a client. Yeah. And not everybody just does that one, you know, does the whole lot. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but also utilize the systems as they should be. So, you know, we, you know, I find like a lot of people, if they're not using a bookkeeper, it's obviously that little bit harder of a sell to get them to use a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
If they are using a bookkeeper, it's easier to bring them on board. Is how I feel. I could always outwork another accountant because of systems and processes and sale technique, etc. But if they're not using a bookkeeper, why aren't they using a bookkeeper? One can be cost, which is fine. I mean, that's a difficult one to compete with. But the second is control. So they still need control. They still need to own the function themselves.
Yeah.
So the way that we build it is you outsource it, but you maintain the control. And you maintain the control by approving everything, by having more frequent meetings, by being involved in discussions around reconciliations. There's no advisory involved in this. This is all pure bookkeeping. Core bookkeeping.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's two great. Yeah, sorry. That's two very good points. If anybody, is thinking about their bookkeeping divisions or setting up one, control and, communication, I suppose is what you're talking about. So those regular meetings and those approvals back to the client. Look, we'll get into more of the tin tacks of what you believe a bookkeeping firm should look like, or a bookkeeping division should look like, Trent. But I know we've been speaking a lot about, I think everyone can hear, we're pro bookkeeping here. We do believe that it certainly does have a place in the accounting world, that there are many pros for doing it. I suppose, are there any cons? Kyelie, have you seen any cons come through your learning experience with regard to actually having the bookkeeping division in-house rather than dealing with outsourced bookkeepers yourself?
I'll give you some cons that people will say to me or ask me about, when they find out we run it in-house. Risk of losing the client, like doing their bookkeeping and their accounting work, one or the other. If you're not prepared to do one or the other, that's a risk, I suppose. What else is a con? Clients, it's a lot about setting boundaries and that sort of thing, and explaining to clients how it works, but clients not knowing who to ask the right thing to. We also use Slack channels for our client comms. That reduces the queries ridiculously. The amount of time that reduces is amazing. But then what if they're putting that in Slack tax stuff, that doesn't really have anything to do with bookkeeping?
The crossover.
It's all those sorts of things. But
it's
super easily managed. It's really just about making sure that you've got that system set up and it's clearly communicated to the client, and it happens every single time.
Yeah. So again, I know we speak a lot about, communication, managing client expectations. What are they getting? Being entirely upfront about this. I suppose also internally for the teams, as well as to how do the accountants and the bookkeepers live harmoniously together, because you do have different work patterns, work styles, just different timing of things going on as well. Have you seen anything, with getting the team to sort of work together well?
No,
but
it could be part of our culture. We appreciate that bookkeeping team because they make our lives easier. So it's a very bit of a love relationship. There's no friction. However, as we know, when there's an external bookkeeper, because it's, us as the accountant, then the client, then the bookkeeper, there can be that friction because the communication can be more limited. And the client can really feel like a bit of a piggy in the middle. But when you bring it in-house, that's gone immediately overnight. Yeah. Look, anyone that's listening into us, if you have any questions for any of us that are chatting about this, please type them into the chat, or I think you hit your microphone button on Clubhouse. It's changed from a hand to a microphone, I believe. And so just to keep us all on our toes. And so that will allow you to pop up on the stage and just say hello to us if you wanted to do that. But I'm interested then, Trent, so talking about, let's say, okay, we want to build this bookkeeping division or improve our bookkeeping division within our accounting business. So I think firstly, you mentioned before about the separation, that this mindset that bookkeeping and accounting is very different. Is that one of the things that because I know you go in and you do a review of the business at first before you have a look at what they need. Do you find that it is a bit jumbled up in an accounting firm when you go in and have a look?
Yeah, often. Yeah,
Often.
And that makes sense. I mean, even if there are bookkeepers who only do bookkeeping, there's still responsible managers that are shared often.
Yes.
Which is all fine. It's just that what we try. I'm never fixed on a solution. Everything is tailored. Is my approach. It's not my way or the highway.
No.
But I think the key there is just understanding the impact of those joint roles and how to manage them.
Yeah.
and the problem often with it is they bring the same habits from the accounting practice into the bookkeeping practice, and that's what you're trying to avoid.
Yes.
I need to be copied in on. I need to be copied in on everything. I need.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
bookkeeping is not the same. A bookkeeping conversation is not as important as an accounting conversation. It's just not. They're two different things. One's advice and one's just structure. Right?
Yeah.
One's just a process. So I think that's the one thing you would be careful of. But it's definitely manageable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So stepping into a firm, that's the first step, right? You go in and you have a look. What do we got here? Have we got anything, something, or a working sort of type model? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. I look at team structure, tech stack, current sort of size of clients, what profitability they're making on clients, and onboarding process, engagement scope, communication, how frequently they're communicating. All of that stuff is sort of baked into the review, and then from that's tailored solutions to build their bookkeeping practice that works for them.
So tell me about, we're accountants. We love the dollars. We love the money. Tell me about clients and profitability. I mean, I see this certainly in the advisory world, and I absolutely see accountants push back to me saying, oh, no, I don't have the client base that would even pay for advisory, or they're not ready for advisory, or they don't have the money. Now, that comes from them hearing their clients perhaps just push back a little bit on the pricing in the compliance world. Now, advisory and business improvement advisory in an entirely different area, and it's dealt with in a different way. So I see it aligning very similarly to what you're doing with the bookkeeping division. But tell me, is there a perfect client base for bookkeeping or bookkeeping division in an accounting firm?
Yeah. I mean, excuse me.
You're right.
Sorry.
Early.
I mean, yeah, I think professional services businesses are good for bookkeeping. And that makes sense because often and bill volume is good. Where it can become problems and break down is industry specific software that is used. Yeah. So the tech
you can't see that, but Kyelie just rolled her eyes, really.
Yeah. So I think if there's a perfect client, the perfect client is, not the big ones, to be perfectly honest. And the big ones, the problem with big ones is they have specific pieces of software that are involved within the finance package, which you can't control.
No.
But professional services businesses, people that sell time, there's payroll, there's revenue and costs, and then bills coming in. And I actually, in my business, the higher the bill volume, the better for me.
Okay.
So I had some clients doing 400 bills a month. I mean, in the business now, I think we process about 3,000 to 3,500 bills a month in my finance team for our 70-ish clients or whatever it is. So we focus very heavily on high transaction. The reason why we've done that is because bookkeepers and accountants don't like that. But because we've got simple stuff, right? We've got Dex, we've got Approval Max, we've got Xero. There's one process for everyone. It's not rocket science what we're doing.
It's quick,
but it's quick, and I've got the right team at the right cost base doing that work. I definitely don't have, senior accountants processing, even if we're using good systems, it still takes time to review and approve. So that putting that down, using the systems properly, like Dexter's great, but if you don't set it up right, set up your suppliers, what's the point? So I think that's the difference.
Yeah. Again, you mentioned a couple of things there. So let's go back to clients, and Kyelie, I'll get your opinion on this as well. But from what, and I understand completely. I remember back in my accounting days too, same thing happened, that, you know, you'd have this one client that you had to learn this entirely different piece of software for. And what you have to realize is if you take on a client like that it's an entirely customized engagement, you know, and it's going to mean something different. It's not going to fit within these efficient, regular sort of services or scalable and leverage services that you're trying to offer, as far as perhaps a bookkeeping division, you know, is what you had. Similarly, people, I'd imagine, with inventory, and that would be, you know, a little trickier as well from time, depending on how they're managing it. Kyelie, help me out here.
Depends on the system.
Okay.
Depends on systems, And I think, I don't think you don't, you know, I don't think you do, you don't shy away from those.
No.
Like in my business, I think the key though is you need to get very good at the easy stuff first. And then you can work your way up to that. So I've got, you know, within the bookkeeping business, I had one team that did that work, and then I had a special, like I had a sort of a very senior technical person who's not my practice manager, she's my technical person, and she takes on those, she learns the systems, we build the processes around that. Then once that's done, once that's organized for the first sort of 2 to 3 months, that's our onboarding process, then it flows back in, systems done, processes sorted, that flows back into the main accounting group or bookkeeping group, sorry.
I love what you just said there.
Don't shy away.
Yeah, I love what you just said there, is get good at the easy stuff first. I take the same approach when I do what I do. It's don't go try this on your hardest, most whingiest client ever, you know, go in and pick, you know, the clients that you know you can make this work nice and easy. Also, I think, again, Kyelie, we've talked about this in a lot of different situations. Don't go and try and roll it out to the whole client base at one time. You know, stick with, you know, pick a set of clients that you know have been interested or have been asking about it, and start with them, right? So, Kyelie, first things first, with clients, and you wouldn't shy away from any other particular clients either, would you? But
no, we don't shy away from them as long as they fit our target client in the bookkeeping space. However, much like Trent said, you know, you want to small choose, right? Like, don't take a big bite. You want to make sure that it's a win-win for yourself and the client. So the engagement has to be tailored to make sure it's going to work. I think there is definitely a sweet spot with clients and profitability. The larger the client, the more difficult it can be to, you know, get that profitability to where you want it to be, because there's more variables. Whereas if you've got a small to medium, I totally appreciate and get the high transaction thing, because you're doing the same thing over and over and using those systems. But yeah, if you've got that sort of, if you can figure out your sweet spot and what your target client is, it becomes really, really easy to scale. Yeah,
cool. Okay, so let's go back to, we've talked about clients, we've talked about the mindset shift that we have to have with bookkeeping, accounting, and there's been a lot of talking about not segregation, but making sure we've got the right people in the right job. So it's about, you know, who should be doing what. So Trent, if you talk us through, you know, what some of maybe the common mistakes perhaps accountants are making with the roles in bookkeeping. So you mentioned one before about we've got a manager that oversees tax and accounting as well as bookkeeping. Not that that's necessarily wrong. It can work, but you have to decide, you know, where the lines are, I suppose, and what the expectation is. Accountants doing bookkeeping would probably be another one. You really want bookkeepers doing bookkeeping. Tell me, is there any others that you immediately sort of spot and go, oh yes, here, if we just change this one little thing, it'll work better?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the only other one to that is just not all bookkeepers are the same either.
Okay.
You know, there's levels of of experience with bookkeeper.
Yes.
Like I said, I've got my sort of technical bookkeeper, and I wouldn't classify her as she's an accountant. She's a CPA. She's a financial controller in background. Like super experienced. One of the best accountants I've ever met transactionally. And she sort of takes on my harder clients. So I think that's one piece. I think it's those roles. And then, so I actually have a data team. I have a payroll. I have a data team, like I built it into like a skills matrix.
Yeah. Okay.
And, yeah. So it's not so much roles, it's sort of a skills matrix. And then, and you know, finding people that are literally happy just to sit there and pump 1,000 bills a month or 1,500 bills a month, that's gold. And you shouldn't, if someone's happy to do that role, they work from home, however it is, you find them, you cherish them, and they just do that.
Exactly.
But you always build redundancy, right? So the key for us is it's about those skills matrix, finding those people and building redundancy within the team. So if we can do that and achieve that, people can take leave, people can go sick, you know, things still get done, and the train keeps moving even if the track's a bit broken.
Yeah, so I know I've seen somewhere else that exactly that is not all bookkeepers are the same. So level 1 bookkeeping is all about, would be equivalent to what I would call your data team. You know, I love that you got a payroll team. That's almost a separate function. I think that's a great idea. Level 2, we've seen, they might have a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more experience, but we had looked at level 1s don't have the client contact. Level 2 have the client contact, and level 3 are able to account to trial balance and do those trickier clients. So yeah, not all bookkeepers are equal. That's a beauty. I like that too. And again, then I suppose let's talk tech stack. We got to get to tech stack. We're 40 minutes in and we haven't talked technology yet. So let's go there. We've had clearly we've talked about communication and Slack. So some sort of more chat tool or interactive communication tool, which is not email. We had a previous topic here, Trent, too, about how to reduce the clutter in our email inboxes. Chat functions or chat solutions were a big part of that. Yeah. What else are we seeing as tech, Trent? Obviously, there'd be some sort of workflow, job flow management type tool in there as well.
Yeah. So we call it task management. Depends on the sort of size of the business. Depends on what task management software we use. But
yes.
So like an Asana or ClickUp are the two main ones that we use. I actually prefer ClickUp to run a bookkeeping division, just because it's got a little bit more structure to it than Asana. Yeah. Asana's a bit, just random boards everywhere is my feel of it. I know it's not like that, so I'm sorry if anyone uses Asana, but ClickUp,
don't worry, I'm sure we say a lot of controversial things on here all the time.
We've said much worse.
Yeah, don't worry, you're safe hands.
No one's gonna come looking for me.
I totally agree. Asana has its place, but for the way accountants and bookkeepers' brains work, Asana is a little bit too all over the shop.
Yeah.
In that space. Yeah.
So it's a bit more in the creative space. Yes. Yeah. It's built for creatives. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and that's why if you haven't seen ClickUp, that's why ClickUp's great, because it has a very, very basic, very hierarchical flow to it, from spaces down, everything.
I use ClickUp. I love ClickUp. Yeah,
ClickUp's great. But then there's better products too. If you're more financially minded, there's better project management applications. One of them is a UK-based business called Forecast.app, but that's the next level. My business. I would be thinking, probably when capacity planning becomes a real issue, that's where something like Forecast, and it's got the financials, it's got the timesheets with approvals, it's got almost full practice management with invoicing. That product is focused on digital agencies. That's what they built that for. But we have a use case. I've built a demo around it. So when you're getting up and you've got 10, 20, 10, 15 FTE doing it across the world, all the rest of it, that's where like Forecast.app. So we've got a sort of ClickUp is our standard, which is a pretty cheap option, and then Forecast.app is the one that is our sort of next level for full practice management and financials. Okay,
Trent, so tell me about, can accountants use their accounting workflow tool to manage the bookkeeping division?
No is my answer.
Okay.
I personally don't think it works.
Okay.
I think the reoccurring and how we do bookkeeping is it's daily. A client doesn't get a review of, like, it's not a monthly process.
No.
For us. It just always happens. So if someone makes a transaction, we know about it the next day. We're looking for that bill. So it's too fluid. So, and what ClickUp, Asana, Forecast, all of those good task management apps do is the reoccurringness of the tasks.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, your practice management software, your task management software, and I'm not sure that 100% behind every single one people use, but that's why we fall away from traditional practice management software and move into more task management, collaboration tools.
Yeah. Look, I think
it doesn't work. I agree.
No,
We don't use our tax software. We actually use 𝐀𝐄𝐳𝐞𝐬𝐝 within Slack, which is task management for the bookkeeping side of things, because it's continuous.
And I think that's a really good point, and it's part of that mindset shift again, and why bookkeeping is different to accounting and tax. Is you mentioned that where it's the fluidity of it and the recurrence of things that are happening. So Trent, you're talking about daily reconciliations here. So, to get out of our head as accountants, I reconcile the bank account once a year or 4 times a year at BAS time or once a month. That can't happen. Well, it can happen, but it's not recommended to happen. With the technology we've got at our fingertips now and the way that businesses work, daily, weekly, anything over a week is probably not enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple lean principle, right? Like if you just look at like a lean flow, bloat is a killer for anything. If you wait to do something, it becomes bigger than it needs to be.
Yeah.
If you're touching something on a daily basis and getting it through the process, everything flows better. Yeah. And that's the full principle. Use the systems, use the software to make sure things are done on a daily basis. So when you do have to do your BAS, you're not trying to, and this is that information flow, and obviously clients have to get on board with this stuff, but that's that issue you're talking about. I'm doing a BAS, I'm contacting a client about a transaction that happened 3 months ago, looking for an invoice because it's over $500 or something. The client's sitting there going, looking at you just like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Can't remember.
So something that happened a week ago, it's like a budget. A budget becomes less relevant as you go through a period, just like an invoice.
Yes.
So for me, getting it done as quick as possible and getting the team in place to do that is the key.
Okay. So one further thing just on tech, obviously there's a lot of software solutions out there for our clients and a lot of, bookkeeping products that they can use. Is it your recommendation? We do see some firms go down the line. I'm a Xero practice, I'm a MYOB practice, or I'm, QuickBooks or whatever you are. What's your take on that with, do you just deal in one software and you recommend everybody change to that? Or, can you handle the different ones and is it efficient to do so?
What I built in my bookkeeping business is we were a Xero practice.
Yeah, okay.
You
didn't have anything else?
No, we didn't. Yep. I'm not that definite on that. That's just a decision we made a few years ago.
Yeah, that's the way you want to run your business. Yep.
I'm not saying everyone needs to follow that trend, but that's how I did mine. I think the key for me is more around, it's more around pricing and return on investment for the client. It's going to be cheaper for a client if I still want to maintain my margin across all of them. It's going to be cheaper if everyone is on one system.
Yeah, clearly.
And if you're on one system, it's far easier to have a team that can pick up the pieces when someone goes on leave.
Yeah.
So ours wasn't so much I think I love Xero. Everything I do is around Xero, and I've built a world around Xero and a whole business around Xero. But it's,
you're a Xero nut, yes.
I mean, I don't. Zeros I could take. To be honest, the software itself I could leave.
Okay.
But it's the add-ons.
Yes.
It's the add-ons.
Gotcha.
It's the ecosystem.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's the ecosystem. And
yes.
my job in QuickBooks doesn't have the same ecosystem.
No. Yeah.
So
okay.
Focusing on Xero is the key, because you can. I look at Xero's app marketplace every day, and I'm testing every single app that's coming through. Like, I would have tested 200 apps in the last 12 months, right? So for me, that piece of it is the exciting bit. That I use, and I just add pieces to the puzzle every single day. So software for me is just like a person cost or a people cost or a resource cost.
Kyelie, where do you sit on the client accounting software, and what do you do within your practice?
Yeah, look, we're also we stick to one because it just is. It's how you get efficiency. You know what I mean? It would be like using Dext and HubDoc or whatever way clients want to give you the information. It just wouldn't work because there's too many pieces. So to streamline things, I also use one piece of software, and it's simply just because it makes it easier for everyone. It makes it easy for us if there's updates, if there's whatever. If we know there's been a disconnect between one of the apps that we use and that system, you're not trying to figure out 5 things that you've got to fix. It's just one change that you've got to make. So yeah, I'm the same. You want to keep the ecosystem as clean as possible.
Yeah. So walk me through, Kyelie. You got a client that comes along, new client, they're not on your recommended piece of software. How does the conversation go?
We won't take them on for bookkeeping unless they changed.
Okay. You would do their accounting, but not bookkeeping. But
pretty much.
That's exactly right. I mean, that to me is you've got your business hat on. You haven't got your technician accounting hat on. You're basically saying, for our business and our efficiency, the way we're set up, and our, to be able to be profitable and give you everything you need as a client, we need this to happen.
Look, I generally find that if clients are going to outsource their bookkeeping, they actually don't really care.
Yes, because they're not dealing with it a whole lot. Yeah, fair enough.
They're not dealing with it. They care about the output, which generally isn't, what does my bank feed look like, or whatever the story is, because they're not taking care and they're not responsible for that. They just want the overall result.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh gosh, I think we could talk for quite some time on this topic, but we are, getting close to the top of the hour. So I think if we just start to wrap up, from my mind, definitely from this panel that we've got here today, we're definitely pro bookkeeping. Can it exist within accounting firms very harmlessly and harmoniously? Yes, it can. Is it profitable? Absolutely. If you set up, if you put some time and effort into the design and the implementation and thinking about, how you're actually building it, go out and get some advice from either other accountants or, that are doing this. Someone like Trent and the guys at TechWeave, they can help you out with this. There's ways to hook into this information. So it sort of put some time and effort into it, and you'll save a lot down the track. I think, again, that mindset shift around, it's bookkeeping, it's not accounting. It needs to work differently, and we need to appreciate that, and right people in the right jobs, or aces in their spaces. I think that's also important. Don't get too hung up on tech, but there's some, some key pieces that go in there, the chat solution, and obviously a task management solution, and, making good decisions for your business. Trent, is there anything else just off the back of that summary from me that you'd like to add about setting up or revisiting your bookkeeping division within an accounting practice?
I think just get your clients involved in the process too.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Don't sit there and just think that you're an outsourced bookkeeper, so you need all the answers. get them involved in the process and keep that cadence up with good communication, good systems, get them approving stuff, get them involved would be what I would just add to that.
Excellent. You can tell you come from the advisory world. I love that because it is all about client communication and, you know, involving them, and it's a two-way street, right? So, you know, you can't really tell people what to do, but if you collaborate with them, you get a much stronger result. So, you know, very important to do that. Kyelie, from your perspective, bookkeeping's worked out well, right?
Yes, bookkeeping's worked out well for us. And I think that if you do own a firm and you've ever thought about bringing bookkeeping in-house, I would guess that the barrier is, it's just too hard basket. So I think getting someone like Trent involved in his team at 𝐀𝐿𝐴, by the way, I love that business name. I think it's fantastic. You know, that's a really great place to start, because it can be too hard basket, particularly if you're focused on the accounting side of things. So it's a great opportunity.
So to reach out to any of us, I know Kyelie and I, we're very much, LinkedIn is the easiest spot to probably find us. You can obviously just search on the web and you will find either of us. I think if a simple Google search will find either of us. Trent, how about yourself? What's the easiest way if somebody wanted to connect with you to reach out?
They can hit me on LinkedIn, or they could just email me directly. My email address is trent.todd@techweave.co.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate that, because time is precious. We've got lots to do in our busy lives. But next week, Kyelie and I will be back Wednesday morning, 7 a.m, bright and early, and talking about how to nail innovation without turning yourself and your team inside out. So, you know, off the back of bringing in a bookkeeping division, let's talk about other innovative things that we can be doing, and, you know, why innovation's really important in this day and age. So it'll be, who knows where that discussion might go. It'll be a cracker. So thank you, everybody, for listening in. We hope you have a wonderful day and a great week. Thank you, Trent, for your time this morning. Very much appreciated. And, of course, Kyelie, thank you so much once again.
Yeah, thanks, Trent. Thanks, Linda. Have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
See you. Bye.